This reading that we had this week is usually the washing of the disciples' feet. That is usually a reading that we use on Maundy, Thursday. And quite often, churches will read that reading, and then the pastor will wash somebody's feet. Have you ever seen that happen before? All right, I've done that before, and it hasn't gone well. Pope Francis has done that, and it has made it a tradition that he goes and washes the feet of prisoners. There is a church that read that reading, the washing of the disciples' feet, and then the pastor put a bowl of water down in the front and had a chair. He took off his socks and shoes, and everybody died. No. He took off the socks and shoes, he sat in the chair, and he didn't say anything. And then eventually, a woman came up, took the water, and washed his feet. That was what he was shooting for. He was asked why he didn't wash the feet of people, following the example of Jesus. Why was it that he just sat in that chair and waited for somebody to wash his feet? And this is what the pastor said. He quoted Jesus at the end of this reading. "If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them." Now, I don't care for the word radical anymore, even though we just went to this event, the Dance of Radical Hospitality. I don't care for the word anymore because in the 90s, everybody was using it all the time, especially in the church. I'm sure your pastors would say, Jesus did such a radical thing. And it was just so overused. But I have to say here that Jesus did a radical thing. In Jesus' time, it was customary for a good host, when people came to their house, to provide water for them to wash their own feet. There weren't paved roads. They wore sandals. There was a lot of dust and dirt and stuff like that, and people's feet got all dirty. So a good host would provide water for people to wash their own feet. If on occasion maybe they would have a slave wash their feet, but the host would not wash their feet. So Jesus taking the role of the slave is a radical thing to do, putting himself in the place of a slave. This was really unusual. In fact, you can tell by Peter's original reaction. He said, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus, the King of the world, becoming a servant. Now, look at the front of your bulletin, and this is an illustration that Crossways International had. Pastor Harry Wendt calls Jesus the servant king. He says he's the God that washes feet, showing that he is the servant. Jesus, the King of the world, becomes the servant of the world, all people. You see all those people around the circle representing all the people of the world. Jesus came not to be served, but to serve. Now, something else we'll say radical. You remember whose feet Jesus washed? The disciples. All of them. Even Judas. Now, one of the pastors at our pastor's text study, she said, what I really wish Jesus would have done? He would have washed everybody's feet, and when he came to Jesus, he would have said, no wash for you. You're betraying me. I'm not washing your feet. You betrayed me. You're going to betray me with a kiss for 30 pieces of silver. No wash for you. But he didn't do that. He washed his feet. He washed all their feet. And then he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? Not, do you know what I've done for you? Do you know what I've done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set for you an example, that you should also do as I have done. Very truly I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor messengers greater than the one who sent them. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them." Jesus was and is greater than his disciples, but he became their slave, washing their feet. Pastors are not greater than their people, and the people are not greater than the pastors. That's not the point. The pastor sat and waited for someone to wash his feet because he wanted those people who washed their feet to be changed. Through washing his feet, they would be blessed. Through washing their feet, they would be changed. They would learn what it is like to be Jesus, in that Jesus became a slave. Maybe they wouldn't be, and maybe we wouldn't be servant king like Jesus. And maybe that's okay because we don't need another Messiah. We don't need another Christ dying on the cross for the sake of the world. We have one. That's very good. Maybe we'll just be servant disciples. Servant disciples of Jesus. Servants that learn what it's like to spread the good news of Jesus Christ, the love of God throughout the world. As we've been reading John, you may remember the phrase, "come and see." You know, when Jesus calls the disciples, "come and see." When Jesus meets the woman at the well, "come and see." When he heals the man born blind, "come and see." When he raises Lazarus from the dead, "come and see." Well, this time, it's not "come and see." It's "come and be." Come and be like Jesus. Come and serve like Jesus. Come and love like Jesus. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. Now, what could the blessing be? Is it that warm feeling when you do for someone else? Maybe. Is it the blessing that the other person receives because they needed help and care and love? Maybe. Is it getting a glimpse of what the kingdom of God looks like? Is it getting an opportunity to live in the kingdom of God for that moment? And maybe it's all those things. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. And all God's people said, amen.